Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me once again, Sue, and to Netflix. I really do appreciate my time. I do hope to just get straight to the point. I know I've got a short time to give you what I've got to say today. It was a pleasure, like I said, one of the highlights really to share my story. I have got a presentation to talk to you. And today I really want to just discuss about how you can diversify through midwifery. I think Sue rightly spoke about sometimes you think just applying is actually the problem. And then you get through to interview, you become into the university level and you become the midwife. Great. So this talks through my journey and how I've diversified through my career, through developing, through other services that sometimes we may not know there's avenues to do so. So thank you for the introduction. I'm Kemi Akinwunmi, also a professional auntie, and I am a midwife and specialist in public health. Next slide. So education, aspirations. Why did I decide to become a midwife? I did have dreams as I was younger to be a pediatric doctor. Then I found out about how many years I spent in doing that. And I thought, can I really spend those many years? And also just thought about maybe the child aspect of that may be a bit more challenging for me. So I decided midwifery when my mom had my youngest brother, and I got to know about what midwifery care was. That really sparked my interest around the age of 13, 14. And then I started to derive my subjects surrounding that, looked more into it, college time, picked subjects that were likely towards it. I wasn't an A-star student in science subjects. So for all those thinking you need to be A-star students all the way through for like science subjects, I wasn't really that. I got the best. I didn't do science all the way. I did my best and I got through. And then I went to university. In picking my universities, I decided all my universities should be out of London. I was young. I went from 18 straight away from college into doing the course. When I started my university life, I think I was one of the two, there was probably four of us in that cohort that were young, the youngest in the class. It was quite a mature audience in that era. That was in 2008. And starting era. So it was quite daunting entering that class and had more mature students who had had children already, had experience of, the lived experiencing of being a mother. And we came in with that. And I was probably the second youngest in the class. So coming that, there can be some stereotypes of a young midwife. Will she make it? What does she know? How could she be a midwife? Even during your placements, you can feel like sometimes parents may doubt you and your experience, and even down to your mentors. So that I did experience a couple of that as well while I was there, about some stereotypes, but it was quite good sometimes to break the stereotype with how I presented myself. So being out of London, I was out of my depth in terms of family, having close links in terms of friends. So that can also be quite a challenge when you're 18, starting quite a different type of course like midwifery. Midwifery isn't your normal, you get 3 months off in summer, you get 2 weeks, it's quite straight on, you're working straight away. For those that may not have worked a day in their life, I had, but in a different kind of hospital environment, very professional world, everything you do matters, your professionalism had to start off straight away. So that was quite different things I had to learn straight away. I had friends around me that had the normal courses. They could go out, I had to go to uni every 5 days a week. I had to do placements, night shifts straight away. That can be quite different. And sometimes friends were like, oh, you're going here. One of the things I will say later is sometimes you need to pick your, I should have had a better in terms of like support networks. I didn't stay in nursing halls. I wanted to still live the university life, the young me. So I did have that kind of different in terms of that. And being away from family, it was quite hard being in a total new city and out of my depth in that area. So these are the things that sometimes picking your university, where do you pick it? Do you need your social networks? Do you need friends networks? Do you need family around you? How well will you thrive in terms of that and how it was? So I think being out of London, I did have some friends on my course, which really helped me. They were the ones that got me through initially, 3 or 4 of us, but I didn't stay in halls, that nursing. When it came to having 3 months off, we didn't get that. We had like six weeks in summer, very short time, 6 weeks or 4 weeks actually in summer, which was quite hard. So that was that. And it was very different, having placement, working night shifts from straight away and doing university 5 days a week, and everything mattered. Everything was tight in terms of assignments. So that's the aspirations. I knew quite early on I wanted to be a midwife. I followed that through straight away from my college life to university and going up London and knowing that I was met with a shock of, oh, I'm doing both sides. Next slide, please. So challenges. During my midwifery journey is 3 full years of training. I would say I experienced quite a lot of challenges. So like I already spoke a little bit about having non-midwifery friends, not a bad thing, my friends that wasn't, but sometimes having an understanding, still wanting to have 3 months off, they were going out, being young, I wanted to still go out sometimes, and having that was a bit of a challenge sometimes, and not staying in halls where people would understand, sleeping, night shift, day shift, long hours coming in, that was a bit difficult sometimes. I spoke earlier on about young midwife stigma, that I faced that in placement with my mentors, also amongst sometimes the families you were looking after. The holidays we spoke about. And then my biggest challenge that I faced in midwifery was in my year 2, where quite rightly Sue spoke about resources. I faced head-on racism. Being a young 19, 20 years old young lady, I believed I could persevere. I had a mentor who I worked with on my labor ward, also antenatal wards, and she discriminated me throughout my 6 weeks without her. She said many racial comments towards me, put me down, and told me things like I belong in Tesco checkouts. The likes of me don't do well in things I did. And many where a lot of other peers of her colleagues heard her say, and no one stood up. So I felt like, what chance did I have standing up for myself? In hindsight, I should have spoken up earlier. I waited till the last minute. She will leave me to do things by myself, ignore me on shift. I mean, it felt really small, really hard during that placement. And then after having that time, she got to the very end, she'll tick off some boxes, and last minute she just failed me and told me, you won't do well here. Go back to where lots of you belong in Tesco checkout. Very hard. I cried and cried. And then obviously I took it up with there were some people that told me, you know what, we've heard what she's put you through. You really struggled. So I had to go through NMC. I made a complaint through it. And obviously she did get disciplined throughout the service. However, we spoke about how tight midwifery is. Where you have 4 weeks holiday, that was a 6 weeks placement. Where she had failed it, where she had ticked off some boxes, I still needed to pass that 6 week placement. No matter what, the NMC expects you to have these ticked off places, and I had 6 weeks that I still need to cover and had it to be passed. So these are the negative, sometimes the quite controversial things about the placement where you are relying on one person, and that was prior to pass you. So I still had to take some time out, and I ended up having 9 months off. During that 9 months off, many thought, would you go back? Are you not going to go back? I did think about transferring back to London or another university, but I felt like, no, I'm going to finish it here. I don't want to give up. I don't want to put out, this is what I want to do. Like I said earlier, I knew I wanted to be a midwife very early on, and it was hard. I did think maybe I should give up. It's not for me, because she did speak negative things into me. However, I decided I wasn't going to give up. So I had to leave the cohort I was in. I was able to see my cohort of friends graduate before me. I had to join another cohort. 9 months off. I did a lot of experience. I learned to drive, which was great in that time as well. But then I returned after 9 months to a new cohort for my final year. So trying to make new people in the mix of that new cohort, and that was quite challenging. And if I did give up, I wouldn't be where I am today. But I kept going, and I knew it was. So going back to your purpose, going back to your reason why, that was really important for me. So having that time off, even though I faced discrimination for a long time, I was happy that even though it may have been a bit late, people did speak up for me in the end, and I did have peer support. So it's good now the way that the midwifery segment is, where you have a lot more mentors that you work with. I think that's a good thing that has come into play within the nursing and midwifery practice element, where you have more, you work with a lot more of your mentors and not have one final sign-off mentor, which can be really good because you don't rely on that one person to fail you or pass you. Next slide, please. So here I am now. I qualified. Yay, the 3 years was up, and I've now become a midwife, which was great. It felt like I finally achieved this goal I had, although that took me 4 years instead of 3 that I originally planned or thought I would take, but I've now done it, became a newly qualified midwife. Back to London, yay, out of where I was, back to my own home environment. Then I had to face the juggling of my personal life, working life, into this world of working full time and juggling. But becoming a preceptor, you have competencies you need to achieve. That was really hard. And so even though you're a new qualified midwife, it doesn't stop there. Qualified, yes, but how do you get your skills? How do you become a preceptor? You're band 6, finding your feet. Now you're let alone in the room with the woman. did all the skills that I learned really well. So that was really hard. My first 6 months, I think, was the most hardest part of my career. I faced every single obstetric emergency, things that could go wrong. I had it all. And I thought, is this job for me? Have I done this job? Am I supposed to be a midwife? And I thought, oh, did I pick the right thing? But I was like, no, I did. And although the women I looked after, it was bad, I had a lot of good support in the hospital that I worked in. Great staff, great preceptors that reflected with good team, and that really helped me find my feet. So going forward, but I did feel to myself that I didn't know, I knew I didn't want to stay working on labour ward permanently like this going forward. So 2 years later, after I got my skills, become more confident, I decided to further my study. Next slide, please. And I decided to take up an opportunity to do specialist community public health in health visiting. What is health visiting? I think for those that don't know, public health for 0 to 5, looking after families that are children of 0 to 5, and I will be working in community. That was a 1-year course and it was really good. So I did work in community and I still kept my pin as working at a bank. I'd worked too hard those 3 years that I was never letting this pin ever go in my midwifery. So I went on a bank for hospital I was working for prior and still kept at the bank while I was studying to keep my skills, not lose my confidence in what I was doing, which was great. So during that, I qualified as my health visitor in 2015, and I began working in the community, but still on the bank and not lose my skills. So I'll do a couple of shifts a month, keeping in touch and keep my confidence within my midwifery skills. I later carried on, had my son, and I also developed to get in this specialist world, became a band 7 role in the parental and mental health. So that was really good experience. Within the 1.5 years that I worked in that role, I was able to learn about parent infant mental health. So that diversified the role there, teaching. I got other links as well in that role itself. Next slide. I spoke earlier about becoming a mom. This is where I birthed Professional Aunty, my baby. I became a mom, and during this experience, I was able to see the NHS from the lived experience side. And I was able to see how pregnancy was treated, postpartum treatment, and see how it worked out. And I was able to see, do I really feel that this is the support that I thought a woman should receive? And I think the good and bad of NHS, I was able to see the gaps in the service of continuity of care. Continuity of care, I always preach every single day, is life-changing. And I believe that's the element that I believe that was missing in the NHS. So I decided to birth this support service where I felt like the gaps I saw, things I thought I needed, I began to be that support for other mothers, for other parents, for other family members, for fathers. And I built packages, I built products, bespoke postnatal services, other things that really helped me in my postpartum element. I built it and worked towards bringing that to its life. And that's when Professional Aunty was birthed, and I started my social media presence as well. Next slide. So success of Professional Aunty, I began this in 2019, 2020. I took it more seriously and I began a social media presence online, educational support for people from my Instagram, from Instagram live, linking in with other people. I've had a chance to work with a motherhood group 5 times more, which brings elements of information guidance. And I've also been able to be part of their surveys, government changes, and also the parental mental health partnership, and been on the baby show as well. I've also furthered my skills more to be able to support the parents during my Professional Aunty experience as being an infant massage facilitator, infant first aid, and also recently starting a YouTube series of Can Mums Have It All? And I've supported various mothers, fathers, families during this Professional Aunty role, which I'm really proud of. And I've seen it grow and grow and grow, and still to grow more. And I've been on part of podcasts talking about my journey as well. Next slide. Self-funded. Sometimes when you want to be great, when you want to do things, you will have to fund things yourself. So some of the things have come through work experiences. I've had courses I've done there, but I have funded things myself because of my passion, because of the drive I have for things or work in the community. I've funded things like my infant massage course. I did it myself. First aid, to get the skills I need to be, I funded them. Equipment, a lot of things I've invested into what I want to become. And this is a picture here you can see of some of the ladies and babies from my first aid classes. And also leadership courses. I've done a Florence Nightingale leadership, which my job funded, but I've done all these things. And recently, project management, because of things I anticipate to do later. Next slide. So 10 plus years of being a midwife, 11 years in December, can't believe it. 8 plus years of health visiting and 4 plus years of Professional Aunty. What have I learnt? Never, ever give up. You may have bumps on the road. challenges on the road, it may look like, should I really be doing this? What am I doing here? It may look different, but sometimes you may be on the right road, just means it takes a little bit of detours and you will still get to where you're going. I've enjoyed midwifery. I will never stop doing midwifery because of the hardship I took to get here. And it just looks different for me in different ways. And sometimes you may not practice midwifery the way you want to, but in different areas, in different ways. As you can see, I've been able to diversify in a private element, also within my health assistant and other career progressions I've been able to do as well. What have I learned along my journey of student lives that I am able to educate students about things they should be doing better in terms of never take racism lightly, always speak up early. If you face any attack, don't wait to the end, because that will set you back. And also thinking about having a peer support is so important when your journey. Picking the right universities for you, area, have a good support and links around you is so key. And even when you are qualified, have peer support, linking with other professionals that are doing the same thing you are doing, networking, coming to educate yourself like Netflix, keeping yourself up to date is so important to your journey. And whatever you want to achieve is always able to achieve. You just need to keep going. And I'm happy to say, here I am. I've got a lot of my next steps on hope for what Professional Aunty will be able to bring to other parents and what has birthed in my own motherhood journey that I'm able to provide to other families as well. So I'm really grateful. And next steps and hopes for Professional Aunty, I'm sure we'll be back here to talk about it next time soon. So thank you for listening.